Everybody wants to succeed, especially in school, because this means one day you can have better opportunities, you can have a better life, but not everyone knows how to do it, how success works. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 very, very, very important tips that I think will change the way you study and change your outcome completely. I think it will improve your study life by a lot. But again, my opinion, the things I'm about to say works for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you. So take what you like from this video and apply it to your life. But don't feel obligated to use all of it. Whatever works for you, works for you. So here we go. How to study. I've got 4 very, very key things, and we're going to take it one by one. I believe one of the most important ones is consistency. So we're going to be talking about the memory curve, okay? Very, very, very important, this one. So just because this is a graph, you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to click away from this video. There's a graph. I don't want this. But trust me, this is very important. Okay. So here we can see on the y-axis we have retention, meaning memory, so how well you remember something. And on the x-axis we have time, so how long time is going on. So what happens with most people is during class they pay attention somewhat, okay? Or they pay attention to their full ability, but because the teacher has a limited time or can't explain that good, they remember or understand 80% of the stuff. 80%. So what they do then is they leave that class. They're not going to study that again until the test comes. So what happens is they lose memory of the class. So they know less. So simply that night, their memory is already down to 40% just from the class that day. So they already forgot a lot of the information. Now, the next day, even less. They now know 20%. And then that next 3 days later, it's 10%. And then 1 week after the class, they have like 5%, and in 1 month, almost nothing. So just by not reviewing your class, after 1 month, you basically didn't have to go to class because you know nothing from that class. There's no point having gone. So you need to make sure you do this right, which I'm going to show you how to do soon, in order to make going to your classes even worth it. Otherwise, what's the point? Okay, so let me show you this. So what happens is, I'm going to have this dotted line. This dotted line represents studying. So let's say you had the class, you lose some memory, and at night you're gonna review what happened during that class, okay? And you bring it up, your knowledge, to 100%. You revise it, you did some further reading in your book, and you get it now 100%, okay? So you brought your memory up to 100%. Or maybe not necessarily 100, but maybe like 90 or 95. You did a pretty good job in the hour that you had to study at night, or 40 minutes. Now what happens is, if you stop studying now, what will happen is, the next day, you'll lose some memory again. 3 days later, more memory, 1 week, 1 month. So you lose memory just like you did on the first curve without studying at all. But now you studied once and you notice your memory only goes down to like 15% or 20%. So you retain much more information over a long period of time just by revising once. But 20%, is that good enough for a test? No way. So let's say you do it again the next day. So you're doing your second study session on the same information that you learned on yesterday. So you revise, you bring it back up to 100, and now your memory will go like this. So 3 days, if you don't study now for 2 days, so you study this day and then you don't study for 2 days, it comes down to here, and in 1 week goes down to here, and 1 month down to here. So the curve is less steep. So you're losing information, but much more slowly. So after 1 month, your memory of the information you learned during this class is already at like 50%. So you remember half the stuff, not even revising for a whole month if you revise twice. Now, this is still not good enough. So you do it once more on day 3. So day 3, so you studied this, you studied on that night, the next day, and then you rested 1 day and studied another day. Now your curve will look like this yellow one. So now, after a month, you'll remember like 70%. Damn, that's pretty good. That's a pass. But you want a better grade than that. So you're going to study now after 1 week. So you do it again. Now what happens? Now you get this pink curve. And essentially, so you studied during class, that night, the next day, 2 days later, 4 days after that. So you only studied 4 times, yet look at your memory. Just because you did this consistently, now you'll remember the information over a very long period of time. You can imagine this graph keeps going for months and months till a year. You'll remember like 80% just because you studied it properly once, twice, 3, 4, and 5 times. Okay, this shows how important and how your memory works. Be consistent, and you can retain so much information just by putting in a little bit of study time consistently and directly after you learned information. So this means, what does this mean? This means if you study 4 or 5 times, depending how good your memory is, you barely have to study when the test comes, because you learned the stuff. Now after like a month or 2, you'll have the test, and your memory is this good. You're going to know 90% of the stuff anyways. Now when the test comes, you're going to prepare only like a little bit, and you're going to do great on the test, right? Now, the argument with what I'm saying that I've heard before is people say, okay, I understand that this is good, but if I don't study and my memory gets here after 1 month and I notice I have a test like in a week, I can just study it again and bring it up to 100, right? Okay, you're right. You can. And that's what most people do, and that's the problem. People follow this green curve and they study it after 1 month and they bring it up to 100. They study real hard for a week. But the problem with that is now, because they do it after 1 month, the green curve resets. So they will know the stuff 80 or 100% for the test, but the curve is still the green curve. They didn't achieve these other curves over time. They achieved this green curve by studying on one day really hard, right before the test. So that information, since they're still on the green curve, even though they did good on the test, that information will be lost real quickly. And after a month, they'll know nothing. So learning that information was good for that test, but for your life, you're not going to remember it again, ever. So the reason why I'm emphasizing this is that if you follow this curve, you not only do good on your tests, but the information is kept in your head for years and years and years. And this is especially good if you're going to study further in university, because then a lot of the stuff you learned in school will stay in your head and you won't have to revise it ever again. Because the problem is most people follow this green curve, they study for their test, bring it up, and then they lose all the information again. So when university comes, they have so much more stuff to learn. So that's why I believe following this memory curve is very, very important and the most key and beneficial thing in your studies. So it takes discipline, but it's very, very important. Now, point 2, learn like an artist paint. So what the hell do I mean by this? So how is this painting made? Do you think it's made, the artist painting this corner, then this part, 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 until this corner? No, right? They don't paint like this. Artists paint in layers. If you've ever seen someone paint, they paint in layers. So they'll do an entire layer of the whole painting. Then they'll do another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and do some specific details until the entire painting is finished. So a painting is made layer by layer. And just like an artist makes a painting layer by layer, you should study the same way. Because if you study layer by layer, for example, you know after your class, you know 80%. And if you have to study real hard, like 5 hours to bring it here, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Because again, you're going to get demotivated. You're not going to remember much. It's sad and boring. What you should do is study a little bit, improve yourself, study 45 minutes. Don't study long, and this keeps you motivated and have energy. Maybe you can only bring it to 82%. That's good. You're learning layer by layer. Because if you continue doing that over a few study sessions, eventually you will improve by 2% every time, but eventually you will get to 100. It doesn't matter if you get to 100 on day 1, day 2, or day 4, because you'll be ready for the test, right? So learn layer by layer, because doing that is motivating. It's not so time consuming, and you're going to make a really beautiful painting at the end of the day. You're going to have all the knowledge you need, okay? So learn like an artist, paint. Number 3, questions, questions, questions. This is one of the most important ones. What does Usain Bolt do? Everyone knows him. He's a runner. He's a runner. He's the fastest man on the planet, okay? The fastest ever to have ever lived. How do you think he prepares for his races? Do you think he reads books on how to run? Do you think he thinks all day about what shoes he's going to wear? Do you think he rests all day? He just relaxes, procrastinates? Or do you think he runs? Do you think he trains hard running? Yes, he definitely runs. So the way Usain Bolt prepares for his race is, guess what? By racing, by running. Is this a surprise? No, right? So why would you study only with your books? Why would you rewrite your notes when you're studying for a test? What's the test going to be like? The tests are going to have questions on it. Questions, multiple choice, long answer, whatever. That's what your test's going to be like. So the main thing you need to be doing, the thing you need to be spending 80% of your time on, is doing questions. Like Usain Bolt runs for his race, you should be doing questions to prepare for your test. All of these other things, like getting good sleep, making sure to review your notes, making sure you have the right equipment, like a pencil, paper, whatever you like, whatever, a lamp to study with. All of these things are important, okay? Don't get me wrong, but you should prioritize the most important things. And doing questions should be 80% of your time. Reviewing should be the other 20%, okay? And sleep, and these are 1%, but you need to get good sleep at least a couple days before your test. Because imagine what would happen if Bolt didn't sleep well for a couple days before his test because he was training so hard. That'd be bad, okay? Because he wouldn't have energy and he'd do really badly. So don't get me wrong on these other 3 small things. They matter. But prioritize the very important thing, and that is questions, questions, questions. Prepare for what's going to happen, and that is questions for a test. So if you're an IB student and you don't know where to get questions, I make them, and I organized all the past paper ones into folders by topic, and all you need to do is text me by Gmail. Or have my email in the description. Just go there, and I will give them to you for a small fee, just for my time. Okay, so this is a very important one. So now we go on to the last one, which is be patient. Success is a habit. So the harder you study, the luckier you get, right? Or the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's always the thing. Just like this person, if you don't know this person, this is J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, right? If you didn't know, she got rejected 12 times by her publisher before Harry Potter got published. This just shows you need to believe in yourself, and sometimes things take time. So you need to be persistent. You need to be patient. Your time will come, whether it's now or whether it's when you're 40. Okay, whatever you want to succeed in will take time. Think about Bolt. Do you think he succeeded every single time he tried something? No, he trained for years and for years, running and running and running until he eventually became the world champion. It did not come quickly. It took time. You had to be patient. He got beaten many times, I promise you. So be patient is a key, because many people in school think, oh, I'm going to do all these things that I just taught them and I'm going to go study it. And then they study really hard, and they even do it right. They use this memory curve. They take these things I talk about into consideration, but then they improve their grade from like a 3 to a 4, or in other words, from a D to a C, but then they're confused, like, oh, I worked really hard. I thought I was going to get an A or a 6 or a 7, in other words. But this takes time. It will happen. If you continue, eventually your 3 will become a 4, and it will become a 5, and then a 6, and then a 7 even. You just need to be patient. It doesn't happen overnight. Success is a habit. So I hope these tips helped. So don't give up on yourself. Consider what you think is useful from here. I definitely think number 1 and number 3 and number 2 and number 4 are all important. So take what you like and apply it to your life. And hopefully I helped you a little bit in this video.